Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, in this ever complicated business of show, when you get a chance to sit and talk to someone who's been around the block a few times and had some experience in the business, basically you shut up and listen. And you know, if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I am the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals. We pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more, in a light and in a conversational fashion. And you know, if you like how we do things around here, and I'm assuming you do, because let's face it, you're listening, please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, give us the old 5-star rating on your podcast provider of choice. We're available over at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and plus we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel, so if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, we're on the Twitter, we're on the Instagram, we're on the Letterboxd, and we're on the TikTok for all sorts of fun updates. And also, most importantly, pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because, you know, if we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please, pay us a visit. On this episode, we got another interesting one as we are diving behind the scenes on production and how things get made and how things get financed. And we had the unique pleasure of sitting down with the one and only Michael Mendelsohn, who is the CEO of Patriot Pictures, an award-winning film finance and production company that has helped bring a myriad of different films to the big screen, from The Matrix, Fight Club, Reservoir Dogs, and so very much more. He's got something upcoming which looks absolutely fantastic. It's called God is a Bullet, which is slated to come out at the end of June 23rd, and it is written and directed by the one and only Nick Cassavettes. And we talked a little bit about that and just the ups and downs of the business and the nature of finance and getting things made, and so very, very, very much more. Michael was an absolute delight to talk to. And I hope you enjoy our conversation about the ins and outs of the movie business, because, quite frankly, I know that I did.
Hi, David.
Hey, Michael. Just first and foremost, man, I just want to say thank you so much for the time today. I really do genuinely appreciate this.
Hey, David, your show is one of my favorites. So why wouldn't I do that?
Well, that means a lot. I appreciate that. Honest to God, man. I mean, we try to do good work here. So, I mean, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much.
Well, it's clear that you really like what you do. And so, you know, that makes you an authority then.
Well, it helps, doesn't it? Really? I mean, I can imagine you like what you do.
I do. I mean, you remember the old Tower Records on Sunset? I don't know if you...
I've been to LA a few times, so I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you used to be able to walk in there and you say, well, I like jazz, or I like rock and roll with guitar, and somebody would point you in the direction. Now you can listen to anything you want, but there's nobody to tell you where to go.
Exactly. There still needs to be gatekeepers. I am 100% with you on that. But I mean, just to kick off the show sort of officially, there's something that I've been dying to ask, because I mean, again, as a film fan, as someone who's, you know, made it my career and followed it my entire life, I'm always amazed at sort of the general public misconception of, you know, somebody writes their genius screenplay and then all of a sudden the movie gets made. It's like, no, there are so many different layers in between all that. And I mean, and that's a big part of what you do. And I mean, I guess my first question for you is to just walk me through, I guess, what got you into the finance side of this business?
Well, I originally started working for Johnny Carson in his mailroom. And that was at 16 and 17. And so, and then I went back east to University of Pennsylvania and then at the business school at Wharton, and came back and worked for the Olympics. And then I wanted to be in movies. So I started working for the development arm of 20th Century Fox, for William Morris Agency, for Aaron Spelling. And what I realized from that was none of the people I was working with could say yes. All they could say is no. And then I said to myself, well, how do I, because I love movies, it wasn't my goal to do anything but to finance and produce movies. But I realized that if you wanted to get the ability to say yes to a movie, you had to get your hands on the money. And so that led me to work in a bank that was specialized in construction lending of movies. So like you have a real estate department, and that real estate department, you make construction loans. So I said, well, why can't I do this for movies? Because you have electricians, you have design, you have plumbing, you have all these things in construction, and we have similar type of things in movies, but the equipment instead of a saw is a camera, and architect instead of an architect, it's a script writer,
right?
And then the designer is the director. And so what we started to do is adapt documents from real estate finance and put them into movie finance. And in movies, you sell it to Warner Brothers, BBC, Canal Plus in France, ProSieben in Germany, NHK or CJ in Korea. And in real estate, you might have your anchor tenants be McDonald's on the corner and Ross or TJ Maxx or, that restaurant chain. And so those are your anchor tenants in kind of like a mall.
Right.
And so we started structuring the financing like that. So instead of TJ Maxx, we would make it Warner Brothers. Instead of the McDonald's, we would make it BBC. And so we started substituting in foreign sales to different distributors and stacking them up and saying, okay, if I sell this to these guys, I can get 5 million from them and 3 million from Warner. Okay, that's 8 million. Well, then the filmmaker would say, well, I need 10 to make. And then we'd go back and forth, and well, there's still some unsold territories, so let's give them 50% against the unsold territories. And okay, we got to 9. And then we say to the filmmaker, listen, I can give you 9 unless somebody else is giving you 10.
Okay.
Nobody else is giving me anything. Nobody else is giving me anything, he would say. And then we would make the movie for 9. And sometimes you would get La Femme Nikita by Luc Besson, or Madness of King George with Nigel Hawthorne, or Air Force One with a dear director that just passed, Wolfgang Petersen, with Harrison Ford. These are all independent movies, some of them bigger, some of them smaller, you see. And so you could assemble these pieces in a way to finance the picture. We had a picture recently, God is a Bullet. Sometimes we take directors that have been sidetracked because they've had personal tragedies, or their father died, or they developed a drug habit, or they did a big expensive flop and they end up in director's jail. And so we look for that in certain directors or certain stars. I've financed and produced 13 movies with Nicolas Cage. If you follow Nicolas Cage's career, it's been up, it's been down,
for sure,
and down. Similarly, a dear old friend of mine, John Travolta, has had at least 5 brilliant careers in his time. Right? And I started delivering his mail when I was 17 to Paramount, when he was doing Urban Cowboy. And then later on in life, we did some crazy movie called Battlefield Earth by L. And then later on, we did I Am Wrath. And then recently, we just financed a movie with his daughter as the star, Alice in Wonderland, young romance tale, where Ella Blue Travolta plays the lead about a girl whose mother recently passed away, and she has to decide where to put the ashes,
Right.
which in Ella's case was a true story about her mother too. And then we set it in a modern day Alice in Wonderland type of story. And so we just completed that. Natalie in my office led that movie, and was shot in Budapest. And then what you do in that situation in Budapest, well, if you put the creative credit and the rebate and this, you get 2.4 out of Budapest. And then,
right.
So we put the 2.6 against the foreign sales and domestic. And so the 2.4 and the 2.6, if my calculations are correct, it's close to 5.
I think you're bang on. Yeah.
So we made that movie for 5. And then we add an old friend of ours, Terrence Howard, to play the butterfly that changes. And then we add James Cromwell in to play the concierge of the hotel. And now all of a sudden you put Terrence Howard and you put James Cromwell, and we picked up a girl as the mean red queen. And that was Sasha Luss from Anna, who also, Luc Besson said to me, you got to use this girl, Sasha Luss, because she's perfect as the mean red witch.
For sure.
Now, all of a sudden, you've baked a nice cake. You've laid off part of the risk on Budapest. And now, Natalie can correct me, but then they said to me, if you bring Travolta here to Budapest, John that is, and he'll go to dinner with us to the opera, I think there's another 500 for you from our creative fund. So John was very nice. He came to Budapest and to visit his daughter, and then he went to the opera, and then, eventually, they augmented the budget with a little bit of their pixie dust, the Budapest pixie dust. So these are little things that happen that get movies made that never would have had a chance. Look at the market today. If you don't have Mission Impossible 7 or Top Gun 3 or Guardians of the Galaxy 3 or Iron Man 7, if you don't have these movies, what's the car movie I like? Number 10.
Oh, Fast and Furious. Yeah.
Yeah, Fast and Furious. I got to go see Fast and Furious. I've already watched Top Gun Maverick, I think 5 times. That's how much I liked it. And by the way, Tom Cruise and I are born on the same day.
Love it.
Do you see any resemblance?
Absolutely. You're his stunt double, sir. I'm telling you that for a fact. But I mean, I've got to bring up God is a Bullet, which I know is coming out in June. And I mean, it's such a loaded cast, but I love the fact that you got Nick Cassavettes for something like this, which I can imagine on one end definitely plays in helping you sort of raise money and helping sell it. Because I mean, obviously, while Nick has been working intermittently, he has name value. He has certain credit to be able to get other stars on board, something like a Jamie Foxx. You may not be able to get Jamie Foxx without a Nick Cassavetes. I love sort of how these things sort of interplay with one another.
Yeah. So it's very kind of you to say that I got Nick Cassavetes, but the truth is Nick Cassavetes got me.
Oh, there you go.
Nick has been trying to make that movie God is a Bullet, which is based on a best-selling book by Boston Turan. It's a true story. It happened to them. And Nick's been wanting to make it as a piece of literature for over 18 years. And so his friend Paul Johansson put a dinner together between Nick and I. And he said, listen, I would love to work with you on so many things. Can we start with God as a Bullet? And I said, great, let's start with that. And so it is a script that he wrote from the book. It is about a desk cop, paper pusher, played by Nikolai Costas-Waldau, who they did a movie, The Other Woman, together, remember?
Well, that's right, yeah.
And so we went to Nikolai, and he's fantastic, Nikolai. And it's a very interesting movie about a desk cop whose daughter gets kidnapped. They don't know who. The cops are like, we have no clues. And he gets a knock on the door by this girl that's fully tatted. She's got tattoos on her face, her body, her arms. And he says, get all your stuff together. I think I know where your daughter is. Get all the cash you can, and we're going on the road. And so this desk cop, who thinks she's a nobody, somebody who he would never let play with his daughter, now you find out that she was kidnapped when she was a child, and by a cult who put her to work. And she escaped somehow, and now she wants to help this cop get his daughter back. And it turns out to be Nikolai has to get all tatted up. He has to infiltrate this cult, and they have to make a series of very bad deals to find out where the daughter is. And it's a big battle, and it's something that Nick has an association with because his daughter was also kidnapped by, he didn't know who at the time.
Oh, wow.
And so he relates to that subject. And so we put this movie together. Then Micah Monroe joined us, who's a hot star in the making. When you see her in this movie, you're going to go, wow, unbelievable performance. Wow. And then Jamie, it plays the ferryman, which is a true character. And the ferryman is known for taking people to cross over.
Okay.
So when they send someone to hell, they have to cross over. And so Jamie supplies the tattoos, he supplies the weapons. It's just an incredible cast. We also got January Jones. We also got Paul Johansson from One Tree Hill. It's just an amazing cast. But when you talk about what's different today, it's very tonally similar to Taxi Driver.
Okay.
So me, I love Taxi Driver. I've only seen it 20 times. But if you go out in the market today and you say to them, I want to make Taxi Driver, I want to take that copper tone girl and turn her into a working girl, and then I want to shave my head and attack a presidential candidate, the public companies are going to say, whoa, what are you talking about? That's not politically correct.
Is that why the studios kind of lost their taste for that sort of, upper mid kind of budget movie? Because, I mean, obviously, it definitely feels like these days, if you're not making a movie for $300 million, you've got to be making it for $5 million. And there's kind of nowhere in between to kind of work.
Yeah. And that's because in the action movies, you can't talk about a real subject because that might be politically incorrect. Or in the comedies, they used to make $30 million comedies, and then they stopped all of a sudden, because the humor is not politically correct.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw Joy Coy. He had a performance where he does the different voices of different Asian people. Now, I love all Asian people. I date one. But, he distinguishes them between the Vietnamese voice and the Korean voice. or the Thai voice, or the Japanese voice. Only an Asian guy could tell that. If anybody else tried to make that special, you couldn't. It's politically incorrect, you know. And then if you do bad things to people, which in these movies you ultimately end up killing them all because they did bad things, then nobody wants to wait to watch the bad things to justify why you killed them. And so these are the new challenges of today, which is why the ladies in my office say I make dad movies for dads. But now, you know, we have upcoming another movie. It's called Nice Girls Not. It's a Mean Girls. We're going to make a new movie. And I want you to play one of the teachers in the school, you know?
The deal. No, I mean, I've got to ask you, because this is something else I'm always kind of fascinated by. How has the streaming boom and sort of the demand for intellectual property, be it good or bad, kind of changed the nature of your business? Because it almost seems these days that it doesn't matter if, you know, it's not gonna, you know, the streamers don't necessarily care if it's sort of an interesting title and it's got some recognizable stars or a name brand director or something that'll draw people in. It's just, it's got to fit that box of, you know, the quote unquote, the algorithm.
Well, we delivered a movie last October, which went through the algorithm machine at Netflix.
Yeah.
And it starred Josh Duhamel. It's called Blackout, directed by a young man called Sam Macaroni. And it has Nick Nolte, Abby Cornish, badass action movie. But, you know, we got notes. And the notes were, we would prefer this score or this coloring or these jokes cut out or this and that. Now, to Netflix credit, I have to say, they made the movie better.
Okay.
They didn't make the movie the way the director originally envisioned it. But once those changes were made, the director says, you know what, I have to be honest. They made it better. And the movie ended up going to #2 globally for 3 weeks on Netflix, and went to #1 on Stars TV. And it didn't generate out of Netflix, but they bought it, and I'm very thankful that they did. And they released it very well, and it did very well for them. So now we're talking about Blackout 2 and Blackout 3.
I love it.
So, but the algorithms are for people that made movies the old-fashioned way. The algorithms are a new way of looking. Some people say the numbers don't lie, but when you're on the set and you have in the middle of the battle, there are no numbers that can help you.
So they're not an impediment to sort of, you know, creativity or anything like that. They're just more of a sort of an add-on. Like, they're not necessarily the bad guy, because I mean, I think people think of sort of that universal sort of streaming algorithm as the bad guy, quote unquote, when it comes to creativity and sort of developing new intellectual properties.
Well, we do it different than a lot of people because we have our own fund, remember?
Yeah.
So we have a $500 million fund from a guy that I went to college and Wharton School. His name's Mark Rowan. He's CEO of Apollo Capital. You know, he and I have been best friends for 40-something years, right? So we start the movies and cast the movies and make the movies before we sell them.
Okay.
So we don't have as many restrictions as some of the people that work to make movies for Hallmark or Netflix or Hulu or some of those other companies. We're able to start the process without all those restrictions in place, and then by the time we get to post-production, those comments that they give us are more helpful to us than in a situation where maybe they have their own ideas in the first place.
Well, and I mean, at the end of the day, that comes down to money, right? Which you are ultimately controlling with your product, because I mean, again, you're not behooving to sort of the bigger names or the bigger things. You're delivering closer to a finished product, if I'm understanding you correctly, than maybe
That's
some other
correct.
situations.
That's correct. Not that I wouldn't welcome Blackout 2 and Blackout 3 being cooked inside the brain trust of Netflix, but sometimes you have to create the original product.
Right.
You know, it happened to us with Lakeshore and Tom Rosenberg on a movie called Underworld. You know, Lakeshore wasn't necessarily known for making vampire movies, so they came to their favorite vampire, and we were able to um, create the financing structure with Len Weissman, who's an incredibly talented guy, and Kate Beckinsale, who they fell in love on the set. And that first movie spawned several others,
Oh yeah.
similar to when we created financing for Matrix with the Wachowski brothers. Joel Silver produced that movie, fantastic. And, once we financed that, the other sequels, they didn't need us. We did a movie, Lord of War, with Philippe Brousselet. Philippe brought me this project with another friend of ours, Nick Cage, and it's a story about an arms dealer, loosely based on Victor Bout, who was recently released and traded for our distinguished basketball player that we were able to get back. Now that movie, Lord of War, was written by Andrew Nicole and directed by Andrew Nicole. And that movie was incredible. And, it was a real honor and a privilege to be able to put the financing together with Philippe. And that ended up with no US deal. In fact, Sony came to us at the time and said, if you kill off Nick Cage at the end of the movie, we'll buy the US for $5 million. But if you know the movie, it's about how several countries engage these arms dealers to provide weapons for smaller or bigger countries where they want certain outcomes to happen. We call them proxy wars. Recently you saw Saudi and Iran try to negotiate some settlement in Yemen and things like that. So these proxy wars require the arms dealer to deliver the arm. And so we didn't change the story. We sucked it up. We put up additional financing, and we were fortunate. We ended up with two offers. CAA had put it out to market. And so Universal offered us $9 million and Lionsgate offered us $10 million. And we released the movie the way we wanted to release it. And so that's the other thing that we're known for, is the directors like working with us once we've got a final cut, because we want to release their vision. And the agents laugh and say, how come you're allowing Cassavettes to release his 2-hour, 40-minute God is a Boy? I said, well, I mean, it was originally 3 hours, 20 minutes, God is a Boy. But the secret is these directors, these creatives have a vision, and we're backing that vision. We're using our management experience, our money, our track record of several hundred movies to help them get to the finish line. But they're the ultimate creatives. And, I hope when you see the movie, you can appreciate what it is that Mr. Cassavetes and myself and my company were able to accomplish.
I'm sure I will, man, because I mean, just even you talking about Lord of War, because I mean, it is one of my personal favorite movies. I absolutely love that film. And sir, just keep backing the creatives, because I think you're doing fantastic work. And I mean, I got to bring this to an end, but I thank you for just a little bit of insight and sort of the behind the scenes of getting stuff made. And in the world of finance and Hollywood, which I can imagine it could be the Wild West sometimes. But I mean, you're doing it and you're doing it well. But just again, thank you so much for the time, sir.
It's a pleasure. It's a team sport. And thank you for being on the team of movie making. And I appreciate your time. And I look forward to seeing more of your podcasts. They're absolutely brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And again, just and don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.